So everybody, this time I'm quite honored to invite Leonardo from Brussels this moment. I'm very happy to explore with him what is the future trend of the privacy and data protections, then what we can do go forward together. So thank you, Leonardo. Coming this moment, I'm very great to be honored to having a conversation with you this moment.
Thank you very much. It is me who is honored for your very kind invitation.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to his profile. He is a director of the Office of the EDPS, the Data Protection Authority of the EU, law graduate of the University of Malaga, master's degree in European law from University of Granada, fellow at Duke University in North Carolina as part of the EU Fellowship Program of the European Commission, postgraduate diploma in HR Management by Kingston University, member of the Malaga Academy of Sciences, and correspondent in Brussels, working on data protection in the EU institutions since 1999, in the European Commission, and in 2010, he joined the EDPS as head of HR, budget, and administration. In 2018, he was appointed director responsible for coordination and implementation of the strategies and policies of the institutions. Again, it's great to be honored to have a conversation with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let me start today's agenda. So I'm very interested in why did you come to the privacy and data protection field? So could you tell us why did you start to work at the data privacy field?
Thank you. Actually, it happened totally by chance, as many things in life. I started my career as a practicing lawyer in my home city in Malaga, in the south of Spain. And I decided to study European law, which at the time, in the 90s, it was very exotic. Spain had recently joined the European Union, and studying European law was like studying, I don't know, aeronautics or something really, really weird. But it turned out that I passed a competition to be an EU official in the European Commission. And the first job I was offered was working in the data protection unit of the European Commission, that at the time was very small and not so important as it is today. So I had the privilege and honor to work on data protection when this was very, very unknown, and to contribute to the growth of this discipline. So totally by chance, but I got really, really lucky to go there at the time.
I see. So what is your motivations to keep working on the data protection? I'm very inspired from some of the interviews. Then your stance is to take a balance between the protections but innovations. So I'm personally interested in why did you think about it? How do you keep it?
Yes, actually, in the European Commission, where I started working, they have a rotation policy. So after some years, you are supposed to move from one topic to another one. So I was in the internal market department of the European Commission. So I was offered to move to the copyright unit. And so I moved to the copyright unit. And then when I was there for some months, I realized I didn't like it. It was too mercantilist, too money oriented. So as soon as I had the opportunity to go back to human rights and data protection, I did. And the opportunity came when the European Data Protection Supervisor was created. The first European Data Protection Supervisor, Peter Hustings, and the deputy at the time, Giovanni Buttarelli, knew that I was not happy doing copyright. So they called me and I said, come over to the Data Protection Authority. And since then, I've been devoted to data protection because it's social engineering. It goes beyond law. It's a way of shaping our future as a human beings, giving dignity to the people vis-a-vis the machines. So I find a fascinating job, and that's why I'm sticking to data protection probably until I retire.
I see. Yeah, that is very interesting with me. So in terms of the role of the EDPS, you are in director of this institution. So what is your role at the EDPS? What are you in charge of that?
Yeah, in the EDPS is one of the EU institutions. So the way we function in the European Union is that we have some topics that are kind of centralized in Brussels, let's say federal topics, and then many topics that are still competent in the member states, in France, Germany, Spain. So the EDPS is one of those, let's say, federal institutions based in Brussels, and we have a politically appointed supervisor, Mr. Wiewerowski, who is with us for a term of 5 years. But below these politically appointed supervisors, we so far had three, Mr. Hustings, Mr. Butarelli, and now Mr. Wiewerowski. Below these politically appointed members, we have a staff, officials, fully independent. And I am the chief of staff of these colleagues. We are at the moment around 120 colleagues. So my function is both administrative, being the boss of these people, but also the closest to the supervisor, advising him on the policies and coordinating the necessary in the house to achieve his vision.
Thank you. That is a very quite important role in data protection in Europe, I suppose it. My next question is about your speech at the Duke University. I watched the movie in 2019, which was a very interesting topic with me as well. So my next question is the GDPR. So what is the origin to establish the GDPR, as well as what is the strategy from your perspective, GDPR for the next?
Okay, so data protection for the European Union is something with a long story now. It's a history of several decades. The thing started in the 80s, where some countries like France created their data protection authorities. And at the time, there was a risk that having different data protection laws could create problems for the transfer of personal data between European countries. And in order to avoid that, a directive, the European law, was adopted in 1995, the Data Protection Directive. That it was precisely because of that directive that I was recruited. So they needed someone to take care of the transposition of the directive in Spain, Portugal, Greece, and that's why they took a Spaniard like me. So this directive was very helpful in harmonizing the situation, but it was adopted in the 90s. So it was not fully grasping the technical evolution of internet. It was, yeah, internet was kind of there, but still in its infancy. So after some years, it was felt that it was necessary to update the law. And that's why in 2012, the European Commission made this proposal for a GDPR that was finally adopted in 2016 and only entered into force in 2018. So it's going to be 4 years soon that enter into force. So the idea was to update the law to the new technologies, to give data protection authorities more powers so they can be more effective. And also it was also to further harmonize the law, because a directive gives some margin of maneuver to the member states to deviate. A regulation is directly applicable, so it is impossible to change from the text of the regulation. So this is what we call from here the Brussels effect, which is we put there some leadership proposal on human rights, and then we hope that all the countries will jump on it, and then we will be able to set up an international standard de facto. I think this is what the GDPR achieved. But of course, talking about the future strategy, the game is not over. It's far from being over. We need to continue working, because technology is continuously evolving, and the data protection legislation needs to mirror this technological development. So we need some provisions of the GDPR to be further clarified. I'm pretty sure that in Japan you will have the same. You have your own GDPR, so to say, and I'm sure the Japanese Data Protection Authority will be helping to clarify some provisions. We are also in Europe now completing the picture with a new generation of a specific and targeted regulations. So we are in the process of adopting a Digital Service Act, a Digital Markets Act, a Data Governance Act. So you see these are all regulations for the digital world that complement the GDPR. And most importantly, we have come to a moment where we have to move from words to action. So we need to make sure that there is a more efficient and effective enforcement of the law. And in order to have a discussion about it, we are organizing a high-level international conference in Brussels on the 16th and 17th of June this year, 2022. And the idea is to explore how enforcement is done, not only in Europe, but also in other jurisdictions, to be able to have more robust and effective enforcement of the law. We also have some long-term challenges, and we need to find solutions. A good example is the issue of the transfers to the United States. This is a big problem because there is a strong relationship between Europe and the United States, and the fact that we don't have a long-standing, permanent, sustainable solution for these transfers is an issue we need to work on very seriously.
I see. Yeah, that is a very big overview and big pictures. I've seen in some of the great initiatives related to the data transfer to the South country. That could be the requirements to make a cooperative approach in between the different jurisdictions, such as the Europe and the US. That is very important, as well as in our countries. So that seems to be a very interesting topic to me. Then it's an important topic to the national level and global level, I assume it. So my next question is about digital sovereignty. So you have on speech, then you quoted these words. So what does it mean, the digital sovereignty, then for yourself? Then I'm happy to explore with that.
Thank you. I think the recent COVID-19 crisis has very well highlighted two things. First, how interdependent we are, our societies, how interdependent we are from other regions. How do we need to cooperate with each other to manage global challenges? But at the same time, the importance of having some strategic autonomy in our regions to be able to address these challenges from our own principles and values. So let me start by saying what digital sovereignty is not, because there is the risk that this call for digital sovereignty in Europe is misunderstood. Digital sovereignty is not about creating barriers to the free flow of personal data. It is not about imposing data localization and keeping the data in some jurisdictions. What digital sovereignty is mainly about is empowering citizens and company with choices. So they are free to choose the means they will use to offer a good level of data protection for their customers or their citizens. So at the moment, unfortunately, because of the big dependence that the European Union has from some external service providers, our companies may not have a choice. They will have to take what is in the market that is not compatible with our values and our laws. So what we want to achieve is that there is more choice for our companies. So it doesn't matter if the service provider is in Europe or elsewhere. What matters is that the service provided is compatible with our values and our laws. So this is very important because we do not want to stop the free flow. On the contrary, we think the free flow is essential for trade and economy. What we just want is to empower our companies and citizens better than what we have at the moment.
Yeah, that's great to hear from you. Then taking a free flow then based in protection is also the requirement. We have to talk about it for the futures. That's the very important topics, I assume it. So the next question is on the speech you spoken at the AI summit. I think like the dignity is a keyword that you mentioned on the conference. So I want to ask you about is the human dignity by design. So how we can implement it into the technology, then how we can go public with this concept into design.
Yes, for us Europeans, and I'm sure it's the same for most countries in the world, human dignity is the cornerstone of everything. In the European Union, we do not have a document that we call European Constitution. Unfortunately, it was not politically possible to name a document a European Constitution. But we have something very, very similar, which is almost our constitution, which is the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. And Article 1 of our Charter of Fundamental Rights, of our European Constitution, says that human dignity cannot be violated. So we talk about human dignity even before we talk about the right to have a life. It's so important for us, this human dignity, that we want this concept to be embraced by the technology. That's why I have invented this concept of the human dignity by design, mirroring the concept in data protection law of data protection by design. Because in the new wave of technologies that we will have in the future, for example, on artificial intelligence, we will need more than data protection by design to make technologies safe for individuals. We will need to ensure that human dignity is at the core of these technologies. I like to say that what makes us human is our imperfections. So it is our feelings of love and compassion, our disrespect for other human beings, avoidance of discriminations. All these things need to be in the technology. So we need technologies that are more human and technologies that do not make us less human, because this is the future of our society. We are embracing a new digital world, which is great and full of potential. But if the price we have to pay to go to this digital world is to make us less human, then I think we are paying a too big price. That's why at the moment there are many people that are disconnecting from social media and from all these places because they feel that by participating in this not sufficiently human space, they are betraying the principles and values. So we have to be smarter than that. We need to learn from the mistakes we have made over the last years, where we have seen that deregulated tools in the internet have already created big problems for our societies. There is no surprise that we are witnessing so much disinformation, so problematic polarization of our societies, because these tools that we have in the internet were not designed with this concept of human dignity and deep respect for individuals. They were designed to maximize impact, to make videos viral, to make money with advertising, but they were never designed thinking, is this compatible with our values, our constitutions, and the things that we consider close to our heart? So this is what we are trying to say to the world from the European Union. Human dignity should be at the core of our technologies.
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree and totally the same opinion that's been human-centric. That is the requirement of the technology. Of course, society should be the inclusive approach for the human-based. That is a quite important the concept essence to create something new. So the next question is about the future strategy, the EDPS. You mentioned on the YouTube that's you have three main strategies and the EDPS from 2020 to 2024. So what is your main focus to collaborate with other jurisdictions such as in Asian countries? Of course, I'm living in Japan, or other Asian countries involves the privacy regulation. And also the US or other kind of the jurisdiction, they have their own privacy regulation. So what kind of the collaboration you have as an EDPS right this moment?
Yes, something very good that we do here every time we inaugurate a new supervisor is that in the first 6 months, we put out a vision for the 5 years mandate of our supervisor. And that's what we did in the first half of 2020. And that's why we have our strategy published that you perfectly quoted. Unfortunately, this time we had one of these dark swans that beat humanity from time to time. We were confronted with COVID-19. So we had to adapt a little bit our strategy to cover this issue that has been really eating a lot of resources in our office, because we had to accompany with data protection care all the measures that were being imposed to fight the pandemic. But in addition to this, our strategy for the next years focus on the widespread surveillance. We consider that this is a big problem that needs to be tackled. In particular, when you apply artificial intelligence to this surveillance. That's why, for example, we have asked for a prohibition of remote biometric identification in public spaces. This is one of our priorities. The second priority is to join forces with other regions that embrace our human-centric standards to make this standard the future of standard of humanity, and not other standards that we are seeing in other places that are not compatible with human dignity. And the third priority, which is a little bit more European is the concept we already discussed of digital sovereignty, to make Europe more sovereign when coming to the digital transformation. The most important thing from the perspective of your audience is the importance of international cooperation. We are, this for us, there is no point in doing anything in the European Union that is not embraced by other regions in the world, because the world has become so small and everything is global. So it's completely useless to develop policies that apply only to our countries. These policies need to be spread and shared by other jurisdictions. That's why we are investing so much in international cooperation. And one of the tools that we have developed for that is this tool of adequacy decisions. And Japan, we have here the utmost respect and admiration for Japan. I mean, your society is so smart and well organized. So you saw this, the importance of this, and your government did the necessary to get the adequacy decision by the European Commission. And now Japan is a leader on data protection in Asia, and recently we saw also South Korea joining the club, which is great. So for us, having more adequacy decisions is a priority, and we hope we will have more. But in addition to this, there are other possibilities for international cooperation. For example, we are well aware of the efforts deployed by some countries to foster the use of the APEC cross-border privacy rules. We endorse these efforts, provided that they are not seen only or mainly from a trade perspective. They can be helpful for trade, but the main reason for these tools is the protection of the fundamental rights of individuals. Let's not forget that what is the object of all these tools. Also, we are supporting other initiatives on the OECD or on the G20. For example, data free flow with trust. This initiative, we think it's a great initiative that we support, because it fosters a very necessary discussion. And also we have a Global Privacy Assembly, which is the meeting of all data protection authorities in the world, where we are very active. And we have also been working closely with the Japanese Data Protection Authority, for example, and recent and the working group that we have on artificial intelligence. So all this is good, but we need to do more. We need to do closer international cooperation. Like-minded countries like Europe, United States, Japan, they need to work closer, and our data protection authorities need also to cooperate in terms of enforcement, to act really as a planet, not so much as regions fighting for their own interests. And because this is like climate change, right? It's a global challenge. We will only be able to ensure a safe digital future for our citizens if we all work together on this.
Thank you. Yeah, it is great to hear from you. That's the kind of the collaboration is the keywords to enhance the privacy baseline, the fundamental of each of the countries to come together. So that is quite important to make a more strategical approach for the data protection world. So lastly, I'd like to ask you any message for the listeners, probably Japanese or other data protection practitioners listening to this interview. I'm happy to be here from your message to all.
First of all, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity you have given me and the European Data Protection Supervisor to explain to a Japanese audience or an international audience the vision that we have in the European Union for a safer digital future for humankind. This is not something that we are doing only for European citizens. This is a contribution of the European Union to the world. In this respect, the support and the active contribution of Japan, their companies and their citizens and their scholars is paramount. Your society is highly advanced in many areas, and having Japan joining these efforts is paramount for the success of this endeavor. So as soon as these COVID-19 restrictions are lifted, I think we should ensure closer cooperation with the Japanese data protection authorities and with the Japanese government to make this human dignity by design a real objective for the next decades, to have a better and safer digital world for all of us.
Thank you. That is a great message. And again, I'm very appreciated and very honored to talk with you this moment. Even though we are in COVID, we are in a remote, but we have powers to fight against the data protection war. So that's very great to have a conversation with you, Leonardo. So thank you for having this moment.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.